In the mechanics of poetry, we have to learn or relearn a few simple concepts and the vocabulary that the science of poetry, known as poetics, uses to name them. Syllable, stress, foot, line, scan or scansion, meter or rhythm. Later in this lecture, we will also be learning about organization of lines into stanzas. The first, one you learned so long ago that you may have forgotten exactly how it works, is syllable. Working backwards, we can say that poems are made of stanzas. Stanzas are made of lines. Lines are made of feet. And feet are made out of syllables. What is a syllable? A syllable is a unit of breath based on vowel sounds. Every word is composed of at least one syllable. Every word contains at least one vowel sound. While there are only 5 standard vowels in the alphabet, A, E, I, O, and U, there are more than 20 vowel sounds in the language, distinct sounds made when the air from the lungs passes unimpeded through the vocal cords and out the mouth. The key to understanding syllables is sound, not spelling. The shortest words in English are A and I. Each consists of a single vowel sound. The words O and Ah also consist of single vowel sounds. A one-syllable word can be long or short. The longest one-syllable words in English are 9 letters long. There are several of these: screeched, scratched, scrounged, scrunched, stretched, and the plural nouns straits and strengths. These are one-syllable words because they consist of one vowel sound. The one vowel sound happens to be surrounded by a number of other sounds, consonants. Sounds do not count in the determination of the syllable. 9 letters, 1 syllable. Say any one of these words out loud. Listen to how many sounds you are making. To take one example, screeched. Broken down into its sounds, it's s, k, e, ch, d. That's 6 distinct sounds, but it's only one syllable. Notice also that it contains 3 E's, 3 vowels alphabetically speaking, but it makes only one vowel sound, a long E. The E of ED is no longer pronounced in modern English. Let me repeat. Syllables are based on sound, not spelling. English contains a lot of one-syllable words, but it contains a great number of multisyllabic words as well. The word English is a 2-syllable word. The word contains is also a 2-syllable word. The word multisyllabic is 5 syllables. The word syllable is 8 letters long, but it has 3 syllables. To understand how meter and rhythm work in poetry, 3 syllables, you have to be able to break a word into its syllables. One problem sometimes arises in identifying syllables. Say these words aloud. Boy, going. It sounds as though in each case we have the same type of 2-vowel combination, oi. But the first combination is called a diphthong. Linguists tell us that in the word boy, the vowel sounds come together so closely that they remain one syllable. The second case, going, provides a more definite hitch or stop. The first vowel gets fully spoken before the second one is pronounced. In going, we have a 2-syllable word. Stress. Is it advertisement or advertisement? In traditional poetics, every syllable is said to be either stressed or unstressed. Another word for stress is accent. When you first learned what a syllable was, you were probably told that some syllables are accented and others unaccented. They mean the same thing. Poetics prefers the word stress to the word accent. Another word for unstressed is slack. Words that have the same spelling often change accent when they change form, from noun to verb or adjective to verb. For example, the word addict becomes addict. The word attribute becomes attribute. The word object becomes object. The word present becomes present. A stressed syllable is simply a syllable that we say louder than the syllables around it. We say meaningful, not meaningful, or meaningful. In actual spoken English, syllables get varying degrees of stress depending upon the structure of the word and the meaning the speaker wants to give it when he or she speaks. So, for example, a dictionary will tell you that the word meaningful, 3 syllables, has a primary stress on the first syllable, a secondary stress on the third syllable, and no stress on the second syllable. In poetics, especially in an introductory course, we don't usually concern ourselves with secondary stress. Normally, we mark both primary and secondary stress as simply stressed. But if you said to a friend of yours, "I found that poem meaningful," your friend, confused, replied, "You found it meaningless," you might in turn reply, "Meaningful," followed by, "Take the wax out of your ears." But note, sometimes in reading a line of poetry, we choose not to stress that final secondary stress. We ignore the secondary stress, making it slack, meaningful. But it's never meaningful. The point is that English words have inherent patterns of stress that all native speakers know. We all hear immediately when someone says the word wrong or funny. The British say advertisement, Americans advertisement. But we also play with this inherent stress in speech in order to create meaning. Traditional poetry organizes stress into patterns to create rhythms. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house, as I came to the edge of the wood, because I could not stop for death. Poetry does not have all the resources of speech, so it is difficult for a poet to change the inherent accent of a word to create meaning. This means that you can almost always trust the normal pronunciation of a word to guide your sense of the rhythm. I will have more to say about this, but we need to get through some more vocabulary words. Note, in traditional poetics, stresses are marked by an accent mark above the stressed syllable and a breve above the slack syllable. But these can be very hard to line up in Blackboard, so for the purposes of our class, we will rely on capital letters to signify stress and lowercase letters for unstressed syllables, as illustrated above. Foot. A poet organizes sound in a poem by regularizing or organizing stressed and unstressed syllables into patterns. The units within this pattern are called feet. Each single unit is called a foot. To say it another way, foot signifies the organization of syllables based on patterns of stress. In analyzing a poem, we break down patterns of stress to find the regularities. Because I could not stop for death. Notice that in this line, every other syllable is naturally stressed. And in this one, every third syllable is naturally stressed. As I came to the edge of the wood. The groups of syllables in front of, between, and after the slashes are the feet. The first example contains 4 feet. The second example contains 3 feet. Our other example, "'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house," also contains 4 feet. Notice, too, that feet follow syllables, not words. A word can be divided between 2 different feet. The names and number of possible feet in English poetics can become very elaborate. If you are interested, you can find plenty of information on the subject online. For a basic study of poetry, we only have to concern ourselves with 6 feet. 2 are common, 2 less common, and 2 are specialized feet that get thrown into a poem every now and then. The 4 types of feet that organize the majority of poems in English are iambs, trochees, anapests, and dactyls. Iambs, trochees, anapests, and dactyls. In the singular, iamb, trochee, anapest, dactyl. An iamb consists of 2 syllables, an unstressed or slack syllable, followed by a stressed syllable, the boy, or beguile. Notice that the accented syllable on the 2-syllable word is the root syllable. This will be so in almost all cases. A trochee is the reverse, 1 stressed syllable followed by a slack syllable. Boys are, or gather. An anapest contains 3 syllables, 2 slack followed by 1 stressed. 'Twas the night, or contradict. Note again the accent on the root. And finally, a dactyl is the reverse of an anapest, 1 stressed followed by 2 slack. John is a, or bordering. The most common foot in English is, by far, the iamb. The second most common is the anapest. Trochees are next, and dactyls are the least common of the 4 basic feet. Trochees and dactyls are usually used to create variety in an iambic or anapestic line. They are not usually the dominant line in the foot, but they can be. The other 2 feet we need to mention are sponde and pyrrhic. These are used almost exclusively as substitute feet to add variety to a line. It would be very hard, to say the least, to write a poem entirely in either foot. A sponde consists of 2 stressed syllables, a pyrrhic of 2 unstressed. A sponde, baseball, a pyrrhic, in a. With those 6 feet you can analyze almost any traditional poem written in English. Line. The basic structure of meaning in poems is the sentence, just as in other forms of language. But the rhythmic structure of poems is the line. Lines start on the left and move to the right. They usually start on the left-hand margin with a capital letter, and they rarely make it to the right-hand margin. That, of course, is obvious. What is not obvious is that lines have names. Lines are named according to a simple formula: type of foot plus number of feet. It would be nice if we could use the standard numbers here and call "Because I Could Not Stop for Death" in iamb 4, but we can't. First of all, we have to use the proper adjectival forms of the feet: iambic, trochaic, anapestic, and dactylic. We also have to use the proper number words. Poetry has its own number names. In fact, it has different sets of number words for different purposes, as we shall see soon enough. When talking about lines, these are the words we use: manometer for a 1-foot line, dimeter, a line of 2 feet, trimeter, a line of 3 feet, tetrameter, 4 feet, pentameter, 5 feet, hexameter, 6 feet, heptameter, 7 feet, octameter, 8 feet. You may never have to deal with a line longer than 8 feet. In fact, most lines have 3 to 6 feet. 4 and 5 are the most common. So a 1-foot iambic line is called iambic manometer. A 3-foot line of anapests is called anapestic trimeter. Note, your spell check may want to change trimeter to trimester and dimeter to diameter. Here are some examples: trochaic manometer, boys are; iambic dimeter, and 1 to play; iambic trimeter, so dawn goes down to day; anapestic tetrameter, 'twas the night before Christmas went all through the house; iambic pentameter, so long as men can breathe and eyes can see; iambic hexameter, he seeks out mighty charms to troubled sleepy minds. Scan or scansion, the act of determining the pattern of feet in a line, is called scansion. If you are asked to scan a line, you note the stresses and you break the line down into feet. If I say, "Scan this line, the boy inside the house," you would write "the boy inside the house," and you would write or say iambic trimeter. Meter and rhythm. You notice that the line names all have the word meter in them. The word meter simply means measure. Meter is the rhythm of the line. Meter and rhythm in poetry are the same thing. In poetics, we prefer the word meter to the word rhythm. When we are asked, what is the meter of a poem, the answer will be the name of the foot or the name of the line. The answer would be, it's in iambic meter, or it's in iambic pentameter. On a test or quiz, either answer would be correct. If the question is, what is the name of the line, then if the line is regular, the answer would be, for example, iambic pentameter. Note that these words are much more precise than the word flow. This is why we do not use the word flow when speaking formally about the movement of language or sound in a poem. Flow is an informal word we are sometimes tempted to use when talking about poems. It's not a technical word. It should be avoided. But getting back to meter. What if you happen to have a line made up of 3 iambs and 3 trochees? In this case, the answer would be, it's in hexameter, but without mentioning the foot. If the line is composed of 1 trochee and 4 iambs, how do you name it? Well, then we would say iambic pentameter. Words are made of syllables. Some syllables are stressed, some slack. Lines are made of feet. Feet, like words, are made of syllables. Some are stressed, some are slack. Patterns of stress create the rhythm we call meter. Stanza. Lines are organized into stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines that either form a natural unit or are marked with a break, or both. Usually, a stanza break is marked by a space, which makes it very easy to determine the number of lines in a stanza. In some traditional forms, the stanza break may not be maintained. We will talk about these as they become important. For now, we'll concern ourselves only with obvious examples. Again, we have to learn some number words. Note that the prefixes of these words are different than the prefixes we learned when we were learning the words for meter. A line set off by itself is simply called a line. It doesn't constitute a stanza. Couplet, a 2-line stanza. Tercet, a 3-line stanza. Quatrain, a 4-line stanza. Quintet, 5 lines. Sestet, 6 lines. Septet, 7 lines. Octave, 8 lines. There are stanzas longer than 8 lines. These, however, are called by their regular ordinal numbers. 9-line stanza, 10-line stanza. They are rare. In addition to the generic stanzas, there are specialty stanzas that have more precise names. These are defined by more than the number of lines, but also by the number of lines. Triplet is an iambic pentameter tercet, all lines rhyming. Heroic couplet is an iambic pentameter couplet that rhymes. Ballad stanza, or ballad quatrain, is a quatrain in iambic tetrameter or alternating iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter, usually rhyming A-B-C-B, but sometimes A-B-A-B. In memoriam quatrain is a quatrain in iambic tetrameter rhyming A-B-B-A. Spenserian stanza is a 9-line stanza consisting of 8 lines in iambic pentameter and a final line in iambic hexameter. Octava rima is an octave, usually in iambic pentameter, rhyming A-B, 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 C-C. Terza rima is a collection of tercets, usually in iambic pentameter, rhyming A-B-A, B-C-B, C-D-C, etc. For more detail, reinforcement, and examples, please see the written lecture on the same material.